Welcome back to the latest episode of Grime and Punishment. Grime and Punishment is all about showing you the work our enforcement teams have been doing to make our borough a safer and cleaner place for you all. In each episode, we focus on a particular issue and explain the different steps our teams have to go through to get the results we all want. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on rogue landlords and what we're doing to protect residents through our private rented licensing scheme. In Barking and Dagenham, all private landlords must be signed up to our licensing scheme, so we can ensure they're following all regulations and making sure they're providing good quality homes for their tenants. The impact of what can happen if a property isn't licensed happened in one particular sad case last year. I'm sure you all remember the fire which happened due to severe heat where several properties were destroyed. Well, after further investigations, we soon discovered that 3 of the properties, 4A, 4 and 4B, were not licensed. We met up with Neil, one of our senior compliance officers from our private sector housing team who worked on the case.
So we're down at Farm Close in Dagenham. We're having a look at the properties that were destroyed due to the tragic fire that happened last year. Upon seeing the property, it was evident that the property had been converted into 3 separate dwellings, where it was meant to be one residential home. So investigations led on from there was that we looked into the property. We found that it was unlicensed to be rented. Further checks with colleagues in planning and building control actually showed that the property was converted without planning permission, and in addition there was no buildings regulations paperwork submitted for the property. Licensing is all about improving the standards of rental properties, tackling antisocial behaviour. When somebody applies for a licence, we will come out and do a visit to the property. We'll carry out an inspection. We'll advise the landlord if there's any hazards within the property, let them know what needs doing to bring the property up to a safer standard. So my colleague that was handling the case would have made contact with the owner, the landlord, made them aware that they had breached licensing regulations. They obviously didn't have any buildings regulations for the property, and that it was our intention to take action against them. So what you can see here is inadequate separation between the 2 dwellings. The separation was constructed using a single skin plasterboard. Now, to achieve a minimum of 30-minute fire separation, you need to use fireboard or 2 sheets of plasterboard, one over the top of the other, and skim plaster. So what you can see from here is the importance of carrying out work to the buildings regulations.
Following the investigation, the landlord, Mr. Gerbachan Matharu, was found guilty in his absence at Barkingside Magistrates Court on Tuesday the 21st of March for failing to licence the properties under the Housing Act 2004. The judge ordered Mr. Matharu to pay a fine of £5,000, cost to the council of £160 and a victim surcharge of £500. If you're a tenant of a private landlord and you're not sure if they're registered with us, you can find out by searching on lbbd.gov.uk/private sector housing. If they're not, please report them to prpl@lbbd.gov.uk. In other news, our CCTV officers do fantastic work in helping our community safety enforcement team and the police by identifying individuals and witnessing incidents. In the last couple of months, they have assisted the police in identifying and arresting 2 individuals involved in a knife point robbery, alerted the police to a male and a female using an air gun. The male was arrested, provided great support to the environmental enforcement team in identifying fly tippers on Gale Street. A case involving a Barking butcher has finally come to an end after he received a 38-week suspended prison sentence, 200 hours unpaid work and ordered to pay costs of £2,400. In 2021, the butcher's Barking Halal Meat and Fish was fined £40,000 and costs of over £5,000. Following a routine inspection from our officers, Mr. Azar Ursad was found to be breaching several food hygiene rules, including selling poor quality chicken which presented a risk to customers and their health. A full closure order was issued on a property on Bateman Close after it was identified it was being used for drugs. A closure order prevents anyone from visiting the property. And finally, our environmental enforcement team issued 46 fixed penalty notices for things like fly tipping and littering. Trading Standards inspected and advised 30 businesses. Our private rented property team carried out 164 compliance visits and 33 antisocial behaviour warnings were issued by our community safety team for begging, drinking alcohol on the street, urinating and spitting. And that's all for today. If there's a particular topic you want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments below.